Alright, so we've spent a good number of days going over the basic concepts of marketing, trying to understand things right from the extreme basics, starting with segmentation, targeting, and positioning, all the way to the new era of digital marketing, and even really understanding how B2B marketing is different, and looking at a lot of real world examples of how marketing is being done in the modern world while still retaining the fundamentals that have always been at the core of marketing. So, just going back to the definition that we had when we started this entire conversation, was that marketing at the end of the day is about communicating value. And hence, it's extremely important to make sure that no matter what changes, the four P's, the marketing mix is always going to remain an essential priority. As a marketeer, you will want to make sure that you really understand what your product has to offer. You will want to understand what are the apprehensions and the questions which your target audience has from a point of view of the price, your target audience, what is the right place to reach them, what is the right place for them to find value in your product, to be able to access your product, what constraints that bring on to your marketing strategy, and finally using all of that to determine how you're going to be promoting your product and the values that you'll be highlighting when you're driving that promotion and driving that strategy. Another extremely important concept which I would like you to definitely retain as you exit this program, as you exit the marketing part of this program, is WIIFT. What's in it for them? Take this as a universal rule which applies in any transaction that happens between any two entities. It is extremely important to know what is valuable or what is important for the party on the other side of the table, for the person who is standing on the other side, to really be able to understand, for them to pay attention to you, what's in it for them, how do you really attract them, how do you make sure that they see value in interacting with you. Because unless as a marketer you're able to figure out what's in it for them, irrespective of how good looking your campaigns are, irrespective of how much money you spend on your advertising, unless you're really able to figure out the what's in it for them, your marketing campaigns aren't really going to work out. And this brings us to the other concept which we spent a lot of time discussing, which is inbound processing, inbound marketing. Again, with the core essence that you always want to start thinking about things from the point of view of the golden circle: the who, the why, the what, and the how. Always proceed in that order, always start with the target audience, always think about why the target audience would be interested, why they would want to pay attention. And once you've figured out those core needs, once you've figured out those core aspirations and those feelings and the emotions that you want to tap into, only then can you figure out the what and the how. And the how is essentially just the marketing execution. The how is just figuring out the right taglines, figuring out the final language written output, figuring out the final delivery in the form of an image, in the form of a body of text. But at the end of the day, all of that gets driven by the who and the why and the what. And unless you have those basic concepts figured out, everything else is going to be less successful for you. The next main theme which we touched upon was, what do you really need as a marketeer? What are the three different things that you need as a marketeer? And that is context, content, and campaign. You need the context to really be able to understand the audience, to really understand the product that you're working with, irrespective of how technical the product is. If you are a marketing person, especially if you're in the area related to product marketing or content marketing, you really want to understand the domain that you're operating in. Because unless you really understand the motivations, the challenges, the fears of the end users of the technology which you're marketing, you will not really be able to solve those problems using your marketing. You'll not be able to communicate effectively with them. And hence, it's very important to understand that context. Once you have a good grasp on that context, then you need to be able to convert that into useful content, right? Content which your audience is looking for, content which your audience will find value out of. And once you've figured out that content, how do you take all of that content and deliver it via effective campaigns, whether it is digital, offline, online, doesn't matter. I think once you have figured out the context, once you have the right content, then you really need to be able to apply that campaign thinking hat and figure out the right channels and the right mediums to dissipate that campaign through. Finally, we spent a lot of time discussing about digital marketing, the advantages that it brings in comparison to the traditional ways of marketing, how digital marketing allows you the unparalleled flexibility to define your audience, to target the right set of people, to measure your results, and then to refine and keep on repeating till you get a better bang for the buck, till you start receiving better ROI. And hence, it's extremely important for a marketing person to make sure that they're wearing that analytical hat at all times, really spending time on measuring the results versus just creating artistic output. And this is where we also talked about last time about a marketing person really requiring both the left brain and the right brain thinking. The left brain thinking to really be able to think about all of the technical aspects of marketing, to really be able to measure things, to really be able to look at everything from an analytical lens, from an extremely mathematical point of view, from an extremely objective point of view, and then be able to layer all of that mathematical quantitative insight with creative thinking and approaches to be able to convert those into interesting ideas, into interesting campaign ideas, and be able to really communicate that value. And I think as a marketeer, if you do all of these things right, if you're able to think of what's in it for them, if you're able to really go inbound, if you're able to get a good grasp on the context, if you're able to leverage content marketing in the right way, if you're able to answer the right set of questions for your audience, if you're able to be seen as a thought leader, if you're always present and always the company, the voice which is answering the right set of questions that your audience is asking, then you'll not only be able to communicate value, you'll also be able to create value, not just for your audience, but also for your business by actually creating a huge, solid impact in terms of driving that bottom line, in terms of driving that top line, in terms of driving that revenue. And that is essentially what your role has to be in marketing, to really transform from just being the team which is communicating the value and pivot into the role of the team which is creating significant business value for the company that you work for.